Hello, and welcome to Spicy Toast Gaming. Thank you for tuning in to another Spicy Toast video. Today we'll be doing a Garen guide for Path of Champions. If you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe, and let's get into it. We'll start off with an overview of the champion and how they play, just so you can know if this is someone you want to invest your time as well as shards into. So first, strikes. Garen scales with striking the enemy, so whether that's in combat through blocking or attacking, or with some spells that have one of your units strike an enemy unit. So that is the main focus of the entire build. Next is simple. Garen is a very simple champion, very easy, but also quite powerful. So it's nice to be able to have someone that you don't have to think too hard on. You know what their game plan is, and you know how to execute it. There's not too much of a learning curve with Garen. Next we have low investment. So Garen is very powerful, even without going all the way up to the 3 star powers. Pretty cheap units that work out pretty well for you. Very strong, and they scale up quite nicely. So if you want a champion that easy to learn and you don't have to spend too many shards into, Garen is definitely one that fits the bill. Consistent removal. So if you get your 2nd star power, it gives you a spell every single round to remove an enemy threat, and so you can be taking out one of the enemy units every single round. Very consistent, very nice. Next we have rally. So Garen himself, once he levels up, he's going to rally every single round, and so if you like being able to attack many times back to back, then this is definitely a good deck for you. Lastly, we have unit focused. So even the spells that are in the kit are focused on using your units. So you need units on the board, and you're just focusing on them getting stronger, more powerful, and winning the game with them. So if that sounds good, then Garen could be a good champion for you. But now let's go hop in game and further discuss some of the elements that we touched on here in this overview. In game now with Garen, we have him at level 25, 2 stars. You see he is 5 mana, so on the higher end for champions. He starts with regenerating, and he is a 5/5. When you play him, give other allies 1/1 this round, so just a temporary buff, but making them a little bit stronger. And then he levels up by striking twice. When he levels up, he goes to a 6/6, and now round start rally. So every single round, you'll get the attack token, and you can just keep attacking every single round. Quite nice to have. His spell, Garen's Judgment. Battling ally strikes all battling enemy units. So by playing this, whatever unit you have, either attacking or blocking, will strike every single enemy. With Garen's star powers, that can be quite nice. Also a good way to swing a battle by making your most powerful unit just usually clear the enemy board. So there's Garen. Let's take a look at those star powers. So the 1 star is Demacian Might. When an ally strikes, granted 1/1. So every time that they strike, whether that is attacking, blocking, or with the aid of a spell, they're going to permanently go up by 1/1. The 2 star, Justice, +1 starting mana. Round start, create a fleeting single combat in hand. So it's 2 cost fast. An ally and an enemy strike each other. So your unit is going to be taking damage by doing this, but it lets them strike an enemy outside of combat. That way you can remove an enemy threat and scale up your units. But your unit is going to get hit back, so you need to be ready for that. This also does cost the 2 mana baseline, so you're going to try to want to reduce that through powers that you get in-game. If he was at 3 stars, then you get the 2/2 instead of 1/1 when an ally strikes. Alright, taking a look at his starting deck, so we have Fleet Feather Tracker. When you summon another ally, grant me Challenger. This also gets quick attack, so that's quite strong with a quick attack Challenger combo. Very good for getting rid of enemy threats throughout the early game. Bright Steel Protector with that draw. When you play, you give an ally barrier for this round. It can be quite nice for letting an ally attack or block, then getting that 1/1 buff from striking and while staying safe. We also have Blade Keeper. Very nice when this gets reduced down to a 2-cost card. Play, grant an ally 2/2. Very nice. You're trying to buff up all your units. Sharp Sight. Give an ally 1/2, and I can block elusives this round. So very nice if you're going up against an elusive unit such as Zoe. Also, you get that Sapphire Crystal, so you get another mana gem. So for the rest of the game, you'll have one more mana gem than you normally would have. Very nice letting your unit both block elusives, but then a decent combat trick so that they can attack or block without dying. Vanguard Defender, 3/3 with Tough. Very nice. This unit, often a card you want to play first. Strong stat line for first card of the game, and with that Tough, you're often able to scale it up quite well. Lorient Prodigy, get that Challenger and the 4/6. Very good for taking out enemy threats, and a lot of health so you can attack or block quite safely with them. Vanguard Redeemer, when I'm summoned, draw a unit if an ally died this round with 4/4. So pretty good for giving you some extra draw if one of your units does die. Garen for 5, and then Remembrance at 6. So if you have allies die, this will be cheaper for each unit that died this round. And it summons a random 5-cost follower from Demacia with Hex Tech Fabricator. We should have one other item, I believe. So yeah, Blade Keeper gets Targon's Brace, so when they support someone, they get 1/1 this round. So that's it for items that we don't have in the starting deck. So taking a look at relics, there's actually some interesting builds you can make with Garen. So Archangel Staff, round start refill your spell mana. This isn't bad since you're going to be wanting to use that spell you generate every single round, and that costs 2 mana. But Garen is pretty expensive, and so you're normally going to want to be ending the game when Garen hits the board or the next round. So you're not going to get as much of a benefit as Archangel Staff as from some other units, but can still be good. Corrupted Star Fragment, if you want to get a giant Garen, you can, but normally you're wanting all of your units to get buffed, so that could be good. Crown Guard Inheritance, when I level up Rally. This one, it can be okay. Normally you're rallying so many times anyway with Garen that it doesn't really matter quite as much. There's other spells I'd rather use. Some of the most important ones though, Stalker's Blade, when I'm summoned, I strike the strongest enemy, and Gatebreaker, when I'm summoned, I strike the enemy nexus. It's good to put some combination of both of these on Garen. That way when he is played on the board, he immediately levels up. So quite nice to have that. Any combination of these would work. Troll King's Crusher, getting Overwhelm on a unit's quite nice. Green Glade Shadeleaf, also very good. By default, you don't really have any Overwhelm units, and so quite often you have an issue of your units being very large, but they just get blocked out and you're not actually killing the enemy nexus. So either giving them Elusive or Overwhelm so that they can go through or around enemy threats can be quite nice. So Shadeleaf is a little bit too slow in my opinion for Garen, but it could be nice to buff up one of your stronger units. Blade Rack, allies have Challenger. Again, can be very good for Garen, making sure your units are able to challenge the right targets so that they're going to kill them and survive, so they can keep scaling. The Berserker's Buckle, when I survive damage, grant me 2/2. With Garen, you can use that spell you generate every single round to always be targeting an enemy, so you're always going to be able to take damage and survive. So you're constantly going to be growing up or getting bigger. Can be quite nice, but again, you're hopefully going to be ending the game pretty soon with Garen, and you're not going to be able to scale up quite as fast as you want with the buckle, but it can work quite well. So the Deceiver's Crest. This is quite fun with Garen. So when I level up, create a copy of my champion spell in hand, it costs 0 this round. So normally the general's counter plan is better, but in this case, Garen's spell is 8 mana. So it's this 8 cost judgment. A battling ally strikes all battling enemies. So if you can have like a full board and swing with this in hand when he's leveled up, since it costs 0, you can really just completely turn the tide of an engagement. I will say this is more likely to be hit or miss, because sometimes you're going to level up Garen and there's going to be no enemy threats, and so it's just going to be wasted. But this could really swing games for you. Definitely something to consider with Garen. On most champions, this doesn't work out that well, because normally the champion spell is something that's pretty cheap anyways. But for Garen, it's quite expensive and could be quite fun and really help you win some games. Troll King's Crown, allies have Overwhelm. Very good. I would potentially use this in my 3rd slot once I hit level 30, just so that my units can end the game as soon as Garen gets on the board. Vrigil's Lantern. Garen is going to be sitting in your hand for a decent amount of rounds, so you probably get this stacked up to probably 6 to 8 times on average before you play Garen. For common ones, Spell Shield doesn't feel too necessary on Garen, but if you want that extra security, not bad. Rage Blade, you're not going to stack this up too fast with Garen, but you will be able to attack every round generally. So if you don't have any other slots and you need to put something in, this isn't bad. Lost Chapter can be pretty good, so you can play your single combat as soon as you play Garen. That's pretty much it for relics. I will say Prototype can be decent if you have an extra slot. And then Starchild Staff, just in case you are taking too much damage and you want to heal up. You need that little bit of sustain. The Starchild Staff is actually quite strong. So that's it for relics I wanted to touch on for Garen. Let's go take a look at what powers you want to be getting with him when you're playing an adventure in-game. Taking a look at powers now, first let's start off with Trifarian Might. So when you summon a 5+ power ally, it strikes the weakest enemy. So the important part here is the strikes the weakest enemy. So when you're playing a unit, if they have that 5+ power, they're going to hit an enemy, hopefully kill it, but then they're going to scale up based on your star powers with that strike. So this can be very nice. I will say by default, most of your units start out under that 5 power threshold, so this isn't going to be happening as often as it does with some other decks, but if you're getting some decent powers during your run, you can get more units that are going to be doing this. But it is very nice to just play a card, have it hopefully remove an enemy threat, but even if it doesn't, they're going to immediately scale up based on that strike. Crush, allies have Overwhelm. We touched on this with the relics. Overwhelm is very nice for your units. None of them really have it by default. And as they're scaling up, they're going to get quite large. You want them to be able to hit the Nexus for their damage every single round you're attacking. Domination round start rally. Now, Garen's going to be giving you rallies every single round, but that's not going to be till he's actually played. So 5 mana generally. So before then, being able to attack with your units and really control that early game can be quite nice. Next group of powers here, these are all based on helping your units scale up. So first we have Battlefield Training, round start, grant the weakest ally 1/1. Very nice for all of your units to get stronger so that they can safely block or attack and then keep scaling. It's the same thing with Fixer Upper, round start, give your weakest ally 3/3 this round. While that is a temporary buff, it's normally going to give your weakest unit the strength to be able to strike an enemy and start scaling up even more. Endurance, when an ally survives damage, grant it 1/1. Normally you're going to be taking damage when you're attacking or blocking, and then also if you use single combat, you're going to take damage as well, unless you're targeting an enemy that has no attack. So all of these just helping your unit scale up even more and get larger throughout the course of a match. Last group of powers here, these are all about letting you use your single combat every single round. So Spell Slinger, your spells cost 1 less. Wild Inspiration here on the other side, your created cards cost 1 less. So these are both going to have the same effect for your single combat that you're generating. Sorcery, round start, refill your spell mana. Again, very nice to have the freedom to be able to play your spells and also your entire mana pool every single round and not have to worry about banking any mana for spell mana. So single combat is very powerful. Ideally, it lets you scale up one of your units and remove an enemy threat every single round, but it can be quite expensive with that 2 mana cost. So you definitely want to get that down to either be 0 mana or just 1 mana to give you the freedom to play that every round. So all of these can be quite helpful in your run with Garen. Taking a look at support champions now. As always, we don't just want to give you a list of support champions, we want to know why you want to choose certain champions. So first we have strikes. If you can get any champion that gives you out of combat strikes with spells, that can be very helpful for scaling up. Ideally, a strike where you get to hit the enemy target and they don't get to hit you back, but any strikes will do. Also, heals. So your units are normally going to be taking damage throughout the whole match. Most of them don't have regeneration by default, so being able to heal up your units so they can keep scaling can be quite nice and very powerful. So first we have LeBlanc. LeBlanc is part of her basic units of support champions or support cards. Comes with a strike, and she also scales with 5+ power units striking enemies, so that's going to be most of your units after a couple rounds. And so LeBlanc actually works quite well with Garen. Next we have Soraka. So Soraka is all about healing. She will be able to heal up all of your units and will definitely help you continue your scaling quite quickly. So these are some champions that work out quite well, but this is it for the support champions as well as the Garen guide. I hope you enjoyed the video. Definitely like and subscribe if you learned something. Hope you have a great day. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching that video all the way to the end. If you did enjoy it, please like and subscribe. We're putting out multiple videos every single day for Path of Champions content. So if that interests you, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and welcome to the channel. Have a great day.